Hey everybody, here looking at my Sabrent model EC-NVME. This is a portable USB 3 to NVMe adapter. I think it's USB 3.1. Has a Type-C connector on the side there and a little indicator LED right there. This was great when I first got it. Now, I initially had got this back in 2021. It was a special that Sabrent was offering on Amazon. I got this basically for free. I think it's either free or half off or something like that with the purchase of one of their products. And I didn't need it at the time. Matter of fact, initially I was using this just for doing NVMe drive backups because, I mean, I get a computer for service or I need to image a NVMe SSD. This was a simple way to do it. But in summer of last year, 2022, I built the PortaCube system, which effectively replaced my original work desktop. Since my place of work, they are gradually moving away from desktops, to my understanding, and I decided to jump on the bring your own device train. So I now have my own desktop, and during my downtime, I'm fortunate enough to be able to edit videos, because that part of my job description is basically sitting at a desk in a lab. You know, when there's nothing else going on, I gotta do something to pass the time. So sometimes I'll edit videos, and I use this little SSD here to transport my files back and forth between, of course, here and my desk at work when there's nothing going on. So I've had some issues with this. I started noticing it back in the fall. Once in a while, and it seemed like it's starting to get more and more often, what would happen is I would get files corrupted. When I'll plug this into the computer, Windows would tell me that there are errors on the drive, or at other times I would just find files either missing or files that are corrupted. For example, a video file that registers as 0 bytes, that's obviously a corrupted file. Running check disk with the R flag would generally get the stuff back most of the time, but not all the time. But it seemed like it's happening more and more and more. And honestly, I don't think it's an issue with the actual M.2 SSD inside here, but we're going to find out for sure. So here's a good example. I got this Sabrent NVMe to USB enclosure hooked up to the M.2 Deluxe, and a moment ago I noticed that the little indicator light was completely out. And then I pulled up my computer, and the SSD did happen to be showing in Explorer, and I double clicked it and it was actually accessible and this light came on. This thing is just, it's really bizarre what's going on with it. So I think what's going on, I think the internal USB to NVMe driver board or controller is having some issues, because I've noticed a few times where the SSD would literally just go offline on the computer, and then I have to disconnect the USB cable and plug it back in, sometimes plug into a different port, and this thing would come back up eventually. Very bizarre, very bizarre. I would, like I mentioned, I'd have to regularly run check disk on this thing to repair corruption. And I should mention, I go to every effort I can to make sure I either safely remove hardware or I pull this out of the system when it's in hibernation or shut down. Despite those efforts, I'm still getting corruption. So what we're going to do is we are going to swap the M.2 NVMe SSD out of this into a different enclosure that is picked up on Amazon. So, like I say, at this moment, I don't think the SSD itself is at fault. Matter of fact, it's made by SPCC, or Silicon Power, the maker of these 2.5-inch SATA SSDs. I've been buying SSDs from them for quite some time now when repairing computers, either using them in new builds or doing SSD upgrades using their products. I've never had any issues with them. So it's kind of bizarre. And I should mention that the M.2 NVMe drive that's in the Portacube system is a 512 gigabyte drive that's identical to this, except this one here is a 1 terabyte. So this is the UGREEN M.2 NVMe SSD enclosure. It claims to be a tool-free design. It comes with, looks to be 2 different cables. So we got a USB to Type-C cable. And we have, looks to be, a Type-C to Type-C cable. So that's nice. They give you 2 different cables with this. How nice of them. So there's the USB-C to USB-C cable. This one here that came with the Sabrent enclosure, it is a USB 3 or 3.1, whichever. On this end it has the USB-A connection, and on this end it has a Type-C with a, well actually it's got a USB-A to C adapter for the other end, so it can function as a USB-C to C. Alright, so continue on here. So this UGREEN adapter is just a tad bigger than the Sabrent. To my understanding of the way this works, yep. So this whole thing here slides out. So it's nice they do give you an aluminum sort of enclosure. And literally this whole thing slides right out. And all you gotta do is just pop the SSD in. You turn this little thing around here, and that secures it. Which this can be moved to support smaller M.2 drives. The default location is for 2280. So I'm just looking at this though, and I guess the only concern I really have, I just want to make sure that, oh, wrong side. Just want to make sure that this thing will just randomly pop open. Ah. I think it locks in somehow. Yeah, there we are. So it locks in with this little push button here. Still not so sure how well it actually locks in. It seems like it could come out inadvertently. I may have to put some glue on that. I don't know. Who knows? And look at the sides of these. The little indicator LED on this one's a slightly different spot than the Sabrent. The thing is, I can't really see. Oh, there we are. The thing is, I can't really see the actual controller, and I don't want to tear this apart just to find out. And I think, yeah, they give us a little pad in here, a thermal pad, to put on top of the solid-state drive, which helps keep it cool. So the way that works is it actually touches against this metal, so that's good. It does offer cooling. Alright, enough of the talking. Let's go ahead and open this up. I can say right away the Sabrent is very difficult to get into once you've installed an SSD and used the thermal pad that comes with it. Here I am having to use a razor blade to try to get this up, and it's not coming up without a fight. I can say I did like this enclosure, but this is definitely not one of its strong points. I mean, the fact that even pulling against the rubber feet on this, it's not coming up. It's not very good in my books. There, finally, it came up. So, yeah, not particularly impressed with this product for ease of access, should you have to open it back up to get your SSD out. Alright, so we're going to swap our existing drive over from here to here. And the new enclosure does come with its own thermal pad. So we can keep the thermal pad in this enclosure here. So it looks like they also give you an extra screw or holder for these 3 different holes, or let's say if you lose this one here, they give you a spare. That's nice. And of course, again, we got the thermal pad. But let's go ahead and get that SSD swapped over. I think they did supply a screwdriver. Well, they may have, I don't know for sure, for the solid state drive. But we have, on the outside of this thing, we have T8 screws. And of course, the hold down screw inside this is a Phillips. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and pop this in here, just like this. And you spin this around, try to get it out of the way. Get as best as you can. As good as we're going to go. And that holds the solid state drive in place. And we'll take the new thermal pad. Got to peel back the plastic. Careful not to get our fingers on the exposed part of this. This is like a this is very much like a laptop style cooling pad that you have, like for your chipset, Northbridge, you name it. Move it down just a little bit. I should probably install it the other way. That way we know for sure it's not going to be in the way of the screw. Just like that. And we'll take the other side loose. So the way it's supposed to work is it's supposed to push up against this metal enclosure, which I don't know how well that's going to work. I can say though that the Sabrent enclosure did indeed conduct heat very well off of the solid state drive. Make sure we didn't miss anything else. That's all the stuff that was included in the package. So literally it's just a matter of putting it back in, and that should keep it in place. The only thing I don't like though is, I mean, I can see this coming loose very easily. Like, I barely push on this and it pops loose. But let's see here. Alright, let's just plug a USB-C connection into here. You see how it just popped right out with literally no effort. Okay, so I got the new enclosure plugged up. I'm actually using the existing USB-C cable I already have with the Sabrent enclosure. And the computer's currently accessing it, and you can see the blink pattern. It's actually a little bit different blink pattern, so theoretically that tells me we have a different style controller in this one. You can see it just went idle. If you look here, these are some files on here, and I should mention that I'd say access time is probably a little faster. Sometimes this thing, it would take a while to, well, not a very long time. There'll be a noticeable little delay when you go to access a folder or whatever. You see, this one's pretty quick. There's an example of one of the files that got corrupted. You can see it's a file that was put together, but now it's showing 0 bytes for the size, so totally corrupted. Not sure if I can recover that or not. I may try some other things, but it's probably more likely I'm just going to have to re-export the video. Yeah, it's quite frustrating when this happens. I mean, you go to do a lot of work to put together a video, and then, well, the video is not there. So the way I do my video editing is I use this little portable drive. It has all my source files on it that are needed for my video projects for both Cube Computer Channel and CubeComp MDDX. And that way I can edit on different computers. So more or less, I plug this into a certain computer that I already have my video editing software installed on. I can just simply launch the project file from that, and all the needed source files are on the SSD. So it's pretty frustrating when I've had to go in and rewrite files because, well, they got corrupted. Even files I didn't even access. It's crazy. So this will, I think this would be a good way to know for sure if it was the SSD or if it was that Sabrent enclosure. Okay, everybody, so it's been a week, maybe 2 weeks, since I started using this new enclosure for my portable M.2 SSD, and I must say, it does seem like a night and day difference now. There was one PNG image that didn't save properly or something like that, but that was like an isolated incident. Everything else seems to be working perfectly fine now. I'm not having any videos get corrupted, nothing like that. So I'm gonna say it was possibly the controller on that Sabrent enclosure. Now, in the previous clip with this guy, of course, I was pretty critical of how the innards of this thing would just pop right out anytime you went to unplug the USB cable. But I've noticed something interesting has happened. The little thermal pad that's in there on top of the SSD, I'm guessing once it gets hot, it swells up and kind of bonds to the shell. Because now, if I plug this in, you see how it's not, how this ain't pulling out so easy. Not real sure what to think about using a thermal pad as a means of locking this in, but hey, I mean, it's standing there now. So I guess if you're looking for a tool-free portable USB to M.2 NVMe enclosure, this would definitely be an option for you. So there it is for this video. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. Well, everybody, that wraps up for this video, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please like the video, leave a comment, subscribe to UGREEN channel, and be sure to tick the bell. That way you get notified of new video posts. Also, I recommend following UGREEN Company on Facebook. A link is in the video description. In addition to computer tech videos, I have a second channel, CubeComp MTDX. Links are available at the end of this video. Again, I hope you enjoyed this video, and thanks for watching and your support.